Jyotir Aravinda. So our topic today is beyond praise, blame and the past. So what does it mean to be beyond praise and blame to start with? What would it mean?
When neither affects you.
When praise doesn't make you lose your balance, in a way that if you've been praised about something, you lose your balance when it goes on and on like a recorder in your mind, till you feel tired of that thought. It's like an intoxication. You know that drinking more is going to make you more sick, but you can't help drinking more for people who like alcohol.
Also reinforces that you are the doer.
Yeah, yes, but basically it makes you unhappy. It tires you. It feels like it's giving you a feel good, but actually it's making you not feel so good. If you sort of get too attached to the praise, because then you'll want it again and again, and you'll fear the time when that praise will go to somebody else. You won't get it. So the more attached you are to the praise, the more it will affect you when it's not there, right? And it's not going to be there constantly. It can't. Also, criticism is another one. Many of us shrink a lot when we are criticized, right? Now, if the same criticism is given to person A will shrink this much. B will shrink this much. C will be totally shrunken. Why is it that three minds receive the same criticism to different extents? What determines that? Their past, largely. How much they identify, and how much they identify with it is their past, right? For example, if I've grown up with a very critical parent, for example, who's made me, and that whole thing has made me feel no good, then every time I'm criticized, somewhere I'll go back to my past where I shrank when my parent criticized me. If I've not had too much criticism in my past and I get it in the present, I won't shrink that much. So how you react to praise or blame also is a function of your past. So to be free of praise and blame, you can be free of it to the extent that you're free of your past. Are you all with me? So I'm going to read Mother's words because they'll explain far better than I will about this. So there are very sweet anecdotes and stories that the mother has given us. First one, she said, a wild horse can be tamed, but one never puts a bridle on a tiger. Why is that? Because in the tiger there's a wicked, cruel and incorrigible force, so that we cannot expect anything good from him and have to destroy him to prevent him from doing harm if he's come into a human vicinity. But the wild horse, on the other hand, however unmanageable and skittish he may be to begin with, can be controlled with a little effort and patience. In time, he learns to obey and even to love us. Sit. In the end, he will of his own accord offer his mouth to the bit that is given to him. In men too, there are rebellious and unmanageable desires and impulses, but these things are rarely uncontrollable like the tiger. They are more often like the wild horse. To be broken in, they need a bridle, and the best bridle is the one you put on them yourself, the one called self-control. So mother here is talking about two animals, a tiger who's intrinsically, he wants the blood of man no matter what, and a horse who may bite you because he's wild, but you can over a period of time tame the horse. And that horse which mother's, if you need a backrest, come here. That horse which mother's talking about taming is your emotions, your vital. When it flies into rage when you're criticized, when it gets overly excited when you're praised, that's the wild horse. And mother says for most of us, we are not like the tiger, untamable. All of us have an emotional structure which is open to being tamed. Now we come to the next story. The mother says Hussein was the grandson of Prophet Muhammad. His home was beautiful and his purse well filled. Whoever offended him offended a rich man, and heavy is the anger of the rich. One day, a slave carrying a bowl of boiling hot water was passing by Hussein as he dined. By misfortune, a little water fell upon the grandson of the Prophet, who let out a cry of rage. Falling to his knees, the slave had the presence of mind to recall an appropriate verse of the Quran. Paradise is for those who bridle their anger, he said. I'm not angry, broke in Hussein, touched by these words. And for those who forgive men, continued the slave. I forgive you, said Hussein. So the slave was clever. He remembered the words of the Quran at the right time. I forgive you, said Hussein, for Allah loves the merciful, the servant added. In course of this exchange, all Hussein's anger had vanished. Now wholly at peace with himself, he made the slave rise and said, from now on you are free. Here, take these 400 pieces of silver. In this way, Hussein learnt how to bridle his temper, which was as generous as it was hasty. Since his noble character was neither wicked nor cruel, not like the tiger, it was like the horse. It was worthy of being controlled. Now this story, the servant throwing water on Hussein's foot, is all the triggers of our life. Now we have the choice of acting from our past. Our past conditioning says if somebody does this, how clumsy you are, especially if it's a slave over whom I have a power, it's easy to shout back. But Hussein, the servant's words reminded him that about controlling anger, heaven is for those who forgive. So let's cultivate a consciousness where we have an inner something which, like the servant's voice, reminds us every time we are acting out of anger. Because anger, however right, ultimately is always wrong, no? Why is it wrong? Why is it wrong, Krisha? Why is it wrong? Because you shouldn't? What happens if you lash out? Yeah, yeah. You hurt people, yeah.
And it can leave us calm, that person for like a long time. Like one thing you say might not affect you, but it affect that person a lot. So
Yes.
you should think before you say.
Very good. Firstly, it will scar you. You can come use the backrest here if you like. Okay. Firstly, it will scar you, but it will scar the person, but most importantly, it will scar you. Remember we did the Panch Koshas, that your thoughts affect your emotions and your emotions affect your body. So with every thought, you're changing the biochemistry of your whole body. So we may do a lot of things to keep ourselves healthy, but if we keep thinking negatively, quantum biology has actually proven that with every negative emotion, your blood receives a neuropeptide which is harmful for you. So if you keep thinking negatively, the person you harm first is yourself. So it's nice, this story that the mother has said, it's nice to keep it as a reminder. Whenever I'm going to get angry and lash out, let me create that person inside me which reminds me that anger, however right, is always wrong. Yeah?
It reminds me of that story you told us about the glass outside can break, but the glass inside
Yeah. Yes. So now we continue. So if your parents or teacher sometimes urge you to control your nature, it is not because they think that your faults, whether great or small, are incorrigible. But on the contrary, it is because they know that your quick and fiery spirit is like a young thoroughbred horse, which must be held in check. So if you were offended, you can use this backrest if you like. You can use the backrest here if you like. If you were offered the choice of living in a sordid hut or in a palace, which would you choose? The palace most likely. We are told that when Lord Muhammad visited paradise, he saw great palaces built on a height overlooking the entire countryside. "O Gabriel," said Muhammad to the angel who was showing them all these things, "for whom are these palaces?" The angel replied, "For those who control their anger and know how to forgive offenses." Well, a mind at peace and free from rancor is indeed like a palace, but not so a vindictive and turbulent mind. Our thought is a dwelling place that we can, if we choose, make clean, sweet and serene, full of harmonious notes, but we can also make it a dark and dreadful lair, filled with mournful sounds and discordant cries. So, during the pandemic, there was a lockdown, right? And we were cooped in our house. Now, those of us who had a happy place in which we were locked in, we loved the pandemic. It was a time to really. How many of you liked the pandemic? Yeah. A lot.
Yeah.
So, and those of us who don't have a very happy circumstance at home, we were miserable. But think about this, your mind is, as one of my ex-students said, a permanent lockdown, no? You can't escape your mind. Whatever you do, you're in a permanent lockdown in your mind. It's a house which you're in 24/7. And if you don't make that house a pretty place, a happy place to dwell in, you'll be miserable. And outside circumstances, maybe you have little control over. But your mind, you have some control over, right? Or you can train yourself to have control over it, right? We've studied Pratipaksha Bhavanam. Whenever an unhappy thought comes, you try and raise an opposite thought. And either way, even the negative thought is your imagination. So if your imagination is making you unhappy, why not use your imagination to make you happy? So it's very important, if you're going to be in a state of permanent lockdown in your mind house, it's very important to make that house a happy place, and that only you can do, right? So now this is further mother talking. In a town in the north of France, oh, those of you who've come here for the first time, these are pictures of the mother, okay? All these are the mother. In a town in the north of France, I knew a boy who was frank by nature, but impetuous and always liable to lose his temper. I said to him one day, "Which do you think is more difficult for a strong boy like you? To give blow for blow and to let fly your fist in the face of a friend who insults you, or at that moment to keep your fist in your pocket?" So which would you say, which is more difficult, for to keep your fist in your pocket when you're angry, or to punch the person? All of you feel that? Yeah? To keep it in my pocket, he replied. And which do you think is more worthy of a brave boy like you, to do the easier or the more difficult thing? The more difficult thing, he said after a moment's hesitation. Well then, try to do it the next time you get an opportunity. Sometime later, the young boy came to tell me, without legitimate pride, that he had been able to do the more difficult thing. He said, one of my workmates, who is known for his bad temper, struck me in a moment of anger, he said. Since he knows that normally I'm not one to forgive and that I have a strong arm, he was preparing to defend himself. When I remembered what you told me, it was harder for me than I thought. But I put my fist in my pocket, and as soon as I did that, I felt no more anger in me. I only felt sorry for my friend. So I held out my hand to him. That surprised him so much that he stood looking at me for a moment, open-mouthed, without speaking. Then he seized my hand, shook it vigorously, and said with emotion, now you can do what you like with me. I am your friend forever. So, many of us feel that if we don't give it back to people, they'll go on punching us, they'll go on hurting us. But there is always another way, because if you really, I keep repeating this, the mother said a beautiful thing, that if you approach the most terrible person from the highest in you, you're obliging the highest in the person to come out. So, putting your fist in your pocket, does it mean being a doormat? Does it mean let people do whatever they like with me and I won't stand up for myself? Yeah, Krisha? You're mature enough to not let the problem become a bigger problem. Putting the fist in your pocket is more than just holding back the punch. What is it? It's withdrawing your anger. That's the first step, no? First, withdraw the anger. And then if the situation demands you to say something, to stand up for yourself, speak it. But not from the space of anger, because anything you say from anger is always going to be wrong. Always something you'll regret a little later. So this is a beautiful story of the mother. Next time somebody triggers you, before you shout, actually put your fist in the imaginary pocket. Remember mother telling you, put your fist in your pocket. It's the more difficult thing to do. And putting your fist in your pocket is holding back the words. First thing. Because anything you say in anger is always going to backfire. So it's a beautiful story if you really bring it into your life. It should not be thought, however, that we have a high regard for a training which weakens the character by depriving it of all its drive and vigor. If you need chairs, they are in the kitchen. Daksha, you can get your home from the kitchen. It should not be thought, however, that we have a high regard for a training which weakens the character by depriving it of all its drive and vigor. Exactly what I was saying. Unfortunately, there are only too many weak characters. Please don't go in the balcony. You can come here. Because there's no fan, you'll be awfully hot there. Daksha, you can come here. If we can just make a little place for her. So unfortunately, there are only too many weak characters who can, like sheep, be driven by a mere bark. There are slavish and insensitive natures lacking in spirit and more forbearing than they should be. So this is another story mother tells us. Abu Uthman al-Hari was known for his excessive patience. He was excessively patient. One day he was invited to a feast. When he arrived, the host told him, "You must excuse me, I cannot receive you. So please go back home and may Allah have mercy on you. You've gone on invitation to somebody's house and they are telling you, please go back, I can't receive you." But Abu Uthman was so patient that he went back home. No sooner was he there than his friend appeared and invited him once more. Abu Uthman, the forever forgiving one, followed his friend as far as his doorstep. But there the friend stopped and again asked to be excused. Abu Uthman went away without a murmur. A third time and fourth, the same scene was repeated. But in the end, his friend received him and said to him before the whole company, "Abu Uthman, I behaved in this way to test your good temper. I admire your patience and forbearance." "Do not praise me," replied Abu Uthman, "for dogs practice the same virtue. They come when they are called and go when they are sent away." So Abu Uthman recognized this not as a strength of his character but as a weakness. Abu Uthman was a man, not a dog, and it could do no one any good that he should thus of his own accord, without dignity or good cause, submit to the mockery of his friends. And this is also an imbalance. We said put your fist in your pocket, but many of us, just to constantly be good in the good books of the person we are attached to, we let them walk all over us, right? And that is also imbalance. That's also not the way Mother's asking us to be. So, did then this man, who was so meek, having nothing in him to control? Oh yes, he did. It was the most difficult thing of all to control the weakness of his character. So according to Mother, this patience is not a strength, it's a weakness of his character. And it was because he did not know how to control himself that everyone controlled him as they pleased. So this is not what we want either. We must be able to speak up when we need to. A young brahmacharin was clever and knew it. He wished to add to his talents more and more so that everyone would admire him. So he traveled from land to land. With an arrow maker, he learned to make arrows. Further he learned how to build and sail ships. In other places, he learned how to build houses. And in other places, he acquired various other skills. In this way, he visited 16 different countries. Then he returned home and proudly declared, "What man on earth is as skillful as I?" This was in the time of Lord Buddha, the Mother says. The Lord Buddha saw him and wanted to teach him a nobler art than he had learnt before. Assuming the appearance of an old Shramana, and Shramana are forest hermits, he presented himself before the young man with a begging bowl in his hand. "Who are you?" asked the brahmacharin. "I am a man who is able to control his body," the Buddha said. "What do you mean?" "The archer can aim his arrows," the Buddha replied. "The pilot guides the ship. The architect supervises the construction of buildings. But the wise man controls himself." So this is actually similar to our education, school and college education. We learn so many things. We learn AI, we learn how to use the computer, we learn everything outside. But there's no component really in regular education which teaches you how to control yourself. So that's what the Buddha is pointing to. But the wise man controls himself. In what way? If he is praised, his mind remains unmoved. That's what the Buddha is saying. If you're praised, you don't go over the top with the praise because you know it's there today, it may not be there tomorrow. If he is blamed, his mind remains equally unmoved. He loves to follow the right law and he lives in peace. Children of goodwill, you too should learn to control yourselves. And if a tough bridle is needed to control your nature, do not complain. A tough bridle is the pains life sends you. Sometimes it's not just people. Life wants you to change, so it sends you the tough bridle. Do not complain. A spirited young horse, which will gradually become well behaved, is of much more value than a placid wooden horse, which will always remain placid, whatever you may do, and on which you put a bridle only for the fun of it. So, Mother always liked disciples who were difficult to begin with, because they were those wild horses, and to put a bridle on them in the larger scheme of things achieves much more than people who don't really have a spirit to begin with, who don't have a mind of their own and will just quietly do whatever you ask them to, because they are not individualized. So these are beautiful lines from Savitri. O man, the events that meet thee, this is page 456. O man, the events that meet thee on thy road, though they smite thy body and soul with joy and grief, are not thy fate. They touch thee a while and pass. Your fate is not praise and blame. They touch thee a while and pass. Even death can cut not short thy spirit's walk. Thy goal, the road thou choosest, are thy fate. So what he's saying is that what happens to you, you think it's my fate. If somebody shouts at me, that's my fate. If somebody praises me, that's my fate. But Sri Aurobindo is saying that's not your fate. Your inner response to what happens to you determines your fate. Because a trigger comes. If you respond to it unconsciously, you're creating a karmic pattern where the trigger will come to you again and again. But if you respond in a conscious way, to that extent you're dissolving your karma, and the same trigger won't come to you again and again. Yeah, so it's a beautiful thing to remember that what happens to me is not my fate, but the road I choose inside my consciousness, the road thou choosest are thy fate. So I'm reading these lines again. O man, the events that meet thee on thy road, though they smite thy body and soul with joy and grief, are not thy fate. They touch thee a while and pass. Even death can cut not short thy spirit's walk. Thy goal, the road thou choosest, are thy fate. Changing past formations of character. So let's explore this. How can we change the road we choose? The road we choose is the response inside us, right? How can we concretely choose it? So firstly, we react because we feel we need to control life, right? We want to control outcomes in a way that we feel secure. And if we are threatened that it won't go the way we want it to, it fills us with anxiety, panic, etc., etc. So this is something we explored in this morning's class. So there's a beautiful mantra from the Prashna Upanishad. It goes, prana. Now let's understand what is prana. Prana is life force. And life force is, the Upanishad further says, something that comes out of Atma. Atma is the portion of the divine within each one of us. So the exudation of Atma is prana. Let's say the executive force of the God intelligence is prana. Prana does everything at the command of the God intelligence. So this mantra is saying that this prana finally has a control over everything. So it reminds us of what's said in the Vedas, that not even a leaf falls from the tree to the earth without the divine sanction. So everything in my life is under the control of prana. In other words, under the control of the divine. And if everything is being controlled by an intelligence which is all loving, all powerful and all knowing, then my life is in good hands, right? So if I really know this, it would be unintelligent to be anxious, right? So if something appears to be going wrong and I remind myself of this truth, you won't worry so much, right? For example, you get a call from somebody and you're worried about the well-being of the person. If you remember that this person is also being controlled by that one intelligence, then you find your worry unintelligent. Okay, so let's do this mantra. Let's learn it up. It goes, it's not in the PDF. Prana, pranasya means of prana, idam here in existence. The control of prana is over everything. So it's pranas yedam vashe sarvam. Vash is control. So pranas yedam vashe sarvam. Say it. Pranas yedam vashe sarvam. Pranas yedam vashe sarvam. So let's shut our eyes, and the seat of the Atma in our heart, put the right hand at the center of the chest, left palm over it. Behind where you're touching, just bring your image of grace. It could even be the sun or any being you believe in. And as you see this being in your heart, just to know that this being as prana is established in every atom, every cell, as the inner controller, the antaryami. And from inside, this being is controlling everything to work out your highest good and the highest good of all. So actually think of something that you may be a little anxious about and offer it to the light of this mantra as we chant it. Pranas yedam vashe sarvam. Vash is control, sarvam is all. Pranas yedam vashe sarvam. 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 Vashe sarvam. Vashe sarvam. Vashe sarvam. Now just quietly, just these two words, Vashe sarvam, control over everything. You know what they represent. So actually think of what you're worried about and feel the light of these words as you say them soundlessly. Vashe sarvam. This one who's controlling everything, whether I call it Krishna, Mother, the Sun, higher intelligence, everything is being controlled by this one who knows what he's doing, she's doing. So 6 more breaths, smiling in the heart with Vashe Sarvam and dropping the anxiety at the feet or into the lap of that one. And then slowly open your eyes. So it's beautiful to use Vedic mantras. Divya, do you need a chair? Because we can get you one from the. Okay. So these Vedic mantras in the Sanskrit language, it has a very different kind of power. For example, if I just say you control everything, it's good. But if I just use these two words like Vashe Sarvam, and if I've practiced it enough so that it's made inroads into my nervous system, whenever I'm tense and I just say these two words, immediately something settles in us. Na? That's the beauty of Sanskrit. That's why it's called the Dev Bhasha, the language of the gods. So now there's this bit called changing past formations of character. Mother says, forget as entirely as possible what you do not want to be. Our problem is if we have a weakness in us, we keep reminding ourselves, I'm like this, I'm like that, I'm bad, I'm terrible. But whatever you think of and you feed, you manifest more. So mother saying that forget as entirely as possible what you do not want to be. Whatever may be the past, whatever may be the faults committed, whatever the ignorance in which one might have lived, one carries deep within oneself the supreme purity which can translate itself into a wonderful realization. The whole point is to think of that, to concentrate on that and not be concerned with all the difficulties and obstacles and hindrances. So what is Mother saying? That man is such a spectrum of different things. He's like a cross between the animal and the God, right? In Savitri that said that man is half animal, half God. And if he keeps concentrating on the animal part of himself, that will grow. But instead of that, concentrate on the God part of yourself. Keep reminding yourself that I have this divinity in me and I have this alchemist in me which is capable of changing everything. So whenever you remember a fault in yourself, don't focus on it too much. Offer it to God, offer it to Mother and move on. But focusing on a fault only increases it. And also guilt. We spend a lot of unnecessary time feeling guilty. And I'll remind you of what Mother said. She said of all emotions, the most corrosive to your progress is guilt. Whatever you've done, sit with it, look at it, learn from it and move on. Don't keep saying I'm bad, I'm bad, I'm bad. That's most non-progressive according to her. So the whole point is to think of that, to concentrate on that and not to be concerned with all the difficulties and obstacles and hindrances. Escape from the consequences of past errors. So long as one repeats one's mistakes, nothing can be abolished, Mother says, for one recreates them every minute. When someone makes a mistake, serious or not, this mistake has consequences in his life, a karma which must be exhausted. But the divine grace, if one turns to it, has the power of cutting off the consequences. But for this, the fault must not be repeated. one shouldn't think one can continue to commit the same stupidities indefinitely and indefinitely. The grace will cancel all the consequences. It doesn't happen like that. The past may be completely purified, cleansed to a point of having no effect on the future, but on the condition that one doesn't change it again into a perpetual present. What does it mean to change the past into a perpetual present? What does it mean? Can anyone give me an example? To change the past into a continually recurring present.
To turn that mistake into my identity.
Example?
So if I say I got
Isha, one sec, for people who hear the recording. Come here, no, it's simpler.
Just my interpretation, but suppose I got angry yesterday and I'm feeling bad about it, and I carry that sort of guilt into the next day, and I say I'm an angry person, I'm more likely to react in an angry manner again and again.
Yes. Any other example? Okay, suppose I've been betrayed by a friend in the past. I trusted a friend with a secret, and the friend sort of didn't keep the secret and told everyone about it. Then I've developed that anger towards the friend. I haven't forgiven that. Now see, mistake, anything unconscious in yoga is a mistake. Now you will say it's not a mistake to get angry at a friend if a friend has not kept my secret. And yeah, at one level it isn't a mistake, but at one level to keep that grudge and to allow it to become part of my consciousness is ignorance. And ignorance in that sense is a mistake. So if I've not cleared that grudge from my system, in one sense that's a mistake. So then whenever I make new friends, I have an expectation that they will also let me down. So I'll be mistrusting. If I see that friend talking to someone, my past will come back and I'll think, oh, she's blabbering my secrets, when she actually may not be. So if I keep superimposing my past on the present, the past can't be dissolved. If the past creates an already always in me, people are already like that and always like that. If one person has treated me badly, somewhere I start thinking the whole world is like that. You get what I'm saying? Your interactions with everyone is expecting that same kind of hit from them as that one person has done to you. Then the past is becoming a perpetual present. Then there's no escape from karmic consequences. So if you want to escape the past, at every moment cultivate a balanced equanimity. Don't get too excited about the good things that happen. Enjoy it, but know they won't last. Tomorrow the same good thing won't happen. I can't keep expecting it to. And if bad things happened also, this mantra we just did, what was it? Who remembers 2 words? Vashe Sarvam. Everything is being controlled by a higher intelligence. Let me leave it to that one. That one will defend me. And yes, if after calming down I have some logical things to say to the person to stand up for myself, I can say that, but not like a knee-jerk reaction. The past may be completely purified, cleansed to the point of having no effect on the future, but on the condition that one doesn't change it into a perpetual present. This is a very beautiful line. On the condition that one doesn't change it into a perpetual present. Take a moment to think how each of you changes the past into a perpetual present. Just take a moment to figure it out for yourself. Could you? Could you? Can I have a show of hands? How many of you could? Okay, okay. So if you figured this out, and this is a very special place, Mansi, can you read out what mother has given? She gave this message specially for this center when it was opened. Can you read it out? Come here, wait, Mansi, can you take the mic?
Let this new house be filled with an ardent aspiration
Let this new house be filled with an ardent aspiration
for the divine realization, and in answer to the call, the divine presence will always be there.
in answer to the call, the divine presence will always be there. That's the special message for this center. That if you really have a call and you call sincerely, the divine presence will always answer. So just take a moment and put an aspiration out that this past which keeps coming up, may I be conscious when it comes up and not let it hijack my present, not let it penetrate the present. Just let's take a moment and put that prayer out. And then throughout the week when it comes up, make a commitment to work on it. Don't let it control you. Control it. So, will not past action come in the way of sadhana? Somebody asks mother. Complete consecration to the divine wipes out what one has been in the past. My dear child, your prayer has been heard. Your past has disappeared. Prepare to grow in consciousness, in light, in peace. Our blessings are always with you. So, just a personal sharing. I was working last week on some way of being in the past which I see coming up in the present. And just the previous day I had prayed to the mother that please free me of this past. And next day I was doing my morning reading. I start my morning by reading some words of the mother, and I came across this. My dear child, your prayer has been heard. Your past has disappeared. Prepare to grow in consciousness, in light, in peace. Our blessings are always with you. So it's uncanny that although mother is not in her body, she finds so many uncanny ways to answer us. I feel that in so many ways she is more living than a living person. Supreme love can dissolve a whole past, she says. So there's a very sweet story. There was once about karma and grace, about grace dissolving karma. So there was once a man who lived in a village where there was a very famous astrologer, and the astrologer was a sage. So he actually communicated with the divine and from intuition predicted people's future. So this man was a little sick, and he went to this astrologer, the sage rather, and asked him that, sir, what is the future of this illness of mine? So the sage said that, I'm sorry, but since you've asked, I'm going to give you the truth. You're going to die in 6 months from now. So the man was very crestfallen because the sage's predictions never came wrong. So he was walking home really crestfallen, and he came across a little temple where a little boy was dancing and singing to Krishna in a trance. And something made him go into the temple and ask that boy that, you seem to be very close to Krishna, and I've been told that I'm going to die in 6 months. Can you pray to Krishna on my behalf? So the boy said, no, nothing will happen to you. You'll live a long, healthy life. And he went back to singing and dancing. So this man went back home. He was preparing to die. 1 month passed. Instead of getting worse, his condition became better. 2 months, 6 months. By 6 months, he didn't have the illness anymore. So he said, this is odd, that sage astrologer's predictions have never come false. So he went back to that sage and he asked him that, sir, how come your prediction for me went wrong? This is probably the first time when you've said something that hasn't come true. The sage says, even I don't understand. Let me look within, you come back tomorrow. So next day when he came, the sage says that when I asked God that you gave me a clear sign that he was supposed to die, then how did this happen? So he said that God replied to me that this man's karmic cycle was such that he was supposed to die. But he had the good fortune of meeting a devotee of mine who was completely in love with me. And my devotee gave him the word that he'll live a long life. I can let my decree go wrong, but I can never let the word of somebody who loves me so much be nullified. So to keep the word of that one devotee, the whole karma of this person was lifted off. So in many ways, yes, there is karma, but grace is always bigger than karma. But you have to be open to grace. If you're constantly open just to your past and you let the past keep controlling you, then you're not open to grace. However terrible your past has been, remember, grace is much bigger than that. And if you open to grace, it can nullify whatever the past has been. Please tell me how I can get rid of the past which clings so heavily. To get rid of the past is something so difficult, it seems almost impossible. To get rid of the past is something, but if you give yourself entirely and without reserve to the future, and if this giving is constantly renewed, the past will fall away by itself and no longer encumber you. So Mother says very beautifully, always think of what you want to become. Don't keep thinking of what you have been. Don't give yourself to the past and say, this trauma happened in my past, that happened, so I'm going to be like this. Give yourself to the future. Think constantly of what you want to be and focus on that rather than going on thinking of what you've been in the past. Again, Mother's words to Hutta, she says, better to laugh. Human nature is such that when you concentrate on your body, you fall ill. If you keep thinking of your body, this is wrong, that is wrong, Mother says you'll fall ill. When you concentrate on your heart and feelings, you become unhappy. If you keep concentrating on, I'm feeling this hurt, this guilt, this bitterness, you'll get unhappy. When you concentrate on the mind, you get bewildered, you get confused, because one moment the mind is telling you this, next moment the mind is telling you that. There are two ways of getting out of this precarious condition. One is very arduous. It is a severe and continuous tapasya. It's the way of the strong who are predestined for it. The other is to find something worth concentrating on that diverts your attention away from your personal self. Commonly people choose marriage because it's the most easily available. I want an escape from myself. I'm looking for the significant other who will come along and make everything right. To love somebody and to love children makes you busy and compels you to forget a little of your own self. But it is rarely successful because love is not a common thing. After the honeymoon period is over, after the good part of the relationship is over, if you are incomplete and you've found somebody just to make you complete, your incompleteness will come up. See, two incomplete people can't complete each other, right? So to be unhappy and think that if I get a partner who will complete me, it never happens. First complete yourself, then look for a relationship. Otherwise the relationship will inevitably cause you more pain. Na? So that's what mother is saying here. Because love is not a common thing. The best when you receive a shock is to answer at once by this thought, let the peace of the Lord be with you, not in spoken words but clearly in your mind, and continue thinking of the Lord's peace and not of the unpleasant sensation. She's saying whatever you focus on will grow. When you're upset and you keep focusing on that upset feeling, that will grow. But instead think of something happy, either it's the Lord or a place in nature. Focus on something else that will pull you out of the unhappiness. And of course, if you have a connection with the Lord, it's beautiful to say, let the peace of the Lord be with you. This is a good remedy and will minimize the bad effects. When you think of the Lord's peace, it acts as a call. And the more you think of it, the more you surround yourself with it. So when you're disturbed and you think of the Lord's peace, the more you call it down and surround yourself with it, which is much more powerful protection. It is true that life as it is not a very pretty one, but it is better to laugh at it than be sorrowful. That's what mother is saying. So coming back to this question of praise and blame, why do we let either affect us so much? Because if somebody praises me, I take it to be a true statement about myself. And if somebody criticizes me also, somewhere I start feeling I'm not good, so I'm being criticized. But there's a beautiful thing the Buddha has said. The Buddha has said that if somebody praises you, they are praising you because of their joy. See, think about it. Can you praise anyone when you're feeling unhappy? You won't feel like praising anyone, right? You have to be at a modicum level of joy in order to praise anyone, right? So their praise of you is about their joy, not really about you. Similarly, if someone criticizes you, it's about the baggage they are carrying. It's not about you. So don't make it yours. If somebody is looking at you with a critical eye, it's their wound oozing out on you. So you don't have to take it like as, are you with me? Are you understanding what I'm saying? So don't take either praise or blame very seriously. They are just words conditioned by that person's past and that person's state of being. It's not about you. Yeah? So keep this in mind as a practice to take home from this class. Just whenever you feel out of balance, that mantra we did, Pranasyedam Sarvam, Pranasyedam Vashe Sarvam, and just the two words Vashe Sarvam also. Also, to whenever you feel you're getting unhappy because of a projection of the past, don't get pulled into the unhappiness. Sit with it, recognize that it's coming from my past, and offer it to the divine. Yeah? And lastly, be balanced when you receive praise and blame. Don't let praise make you overexcited because it's going to pass, and don't let criticism shrink you either. So these three things, if we try and bring into our life, we won't have a session next Saturday. We'll meet Saturday after next. Yeah? So let's end with 3 ohms. Ooh. For those of you who